once again to my channel. If you don't know who I am, my name is Perpetual Enima Mensa, aka the Enima TV or the Palm Show. Guys, I'm so glad to have you all here, and I thank you all for subscribing to my channel, liking it, sharing it. Oh God, like many ajidodo. And then the emotion me start me why family see and I just say discussion I wear geze. So guys, today we are going to talk about dating. My guys and my ladies, those in relationships, those who are planning to enter into one, relax. This show belongs to you. So I have my guest speaker here who is going to help us understand the meaning of dating. Should I date at this stage? Is dating right? What are the preparations I have to make? What should I expect in a relationship? What are the do's and don'ts? Hey, all the questions. Today we are going to answer them for you. So stay tuned as we dive into the issue. Preacher Isaac, you are warmly welcome to the channel once again, and I'm so glad that you accepted to be here. Please, can you introduce yourself to my audience and what you have to expect for today's show?
Okay, thanks for having me. I'm Isaac Asari Poku, and an eye doctor, an optometrist, and also a minister of the gospel at Kaswa CP Church of Christ. I'm married to a beautiful lady, Alice Poku, and I also have a son, Gamaliel Poku. So for now, I think that's all that I'll say about myself.
Wow! Preacher Isaac, as you said, you are married to a very beautiful lady, meaning that you guys went through the stages of dating before you guys got married. The issue. So one may ask, what is dating?
Okay, so with dating, first of all, most of the things I'll be saying will be taken from our tomorrow's book entitled Waiting and Dating. So dating connotes the idea of setting a date where two or more people come together for recreation and fellowship. And this provides them the opportunity to get to know each other better. And in our context, when we talk about dating, it serves as a vehicle where a man and a woman meet to study each other in order to know better about one another, to see whether they'll be good candidates for relationship. So that's what I would say.
Wow. As you can see, my audience, we have pictures of people who are dating. Yes, small car. Preacher Isaac, as we saw in the pictures, dating is a very beautiful thing. Someone just asked me and sent me a message just now that what's the difference between dating and courtship. And one other also sent me a message that is dating actually in the Bible?
Okay, so well, dating is different from courtship. As I defined, dating is a state that precedes courtship. That's what I'll say. Because courtship is when two people have agreed to marry and they are preparing to marry. But with dating, these two people are trying to test waters to see whether they'll be good candidates for marriage. So dating precedes courtship. The two are not the same, they are different. And also with the question of whether dating is in the Bible, you can't see dating in the Bible. That's for sure. Dating is not in the Bible. It's because our culture is distinct from the culture of the biblical characters. But in our time, it has been embedded in our culture and we can't do anything about it. However, as Christians, we have to make sure that we are doing it the right way, that is socially acceptable, and also in a way that wouldn't contradict scripture. That's what I would say.
Preacher Isaac, thank you very much for the explanation. And my first story is that for dating, I can date three boys at the same time. We are just studying each other. And Preacher Isaac, is it really true? Like, how many people can one date at a time?
So one can date as many people as possible. That's for sure. Because we say dating is when one meets two or more people and the person wants to know them better to see whether there will be good prospects for the dating. So one can date more than one. However, because I believe that the larger the sample size, the greater the chances that one would find a suitable partner. However, the sample size shouldn't be also too large because it will make the job very hectic. I believe when one has his or her values right, it will help sift the samples to get the right candidates to be studied. So I think one can date as many people as possible. However, it shouldn't just open room for just anybody to come. That's what I would say.
Wow. Isaac, when is one actually ready to date? Like, can I just wake up one day and say that I'm ready? So let me just grab one.
Okay, so there is no age limit where one. Let's take it.
Okay.
Okay, so there is no boundary or age limit because we grow at varying degrees. Okay, but I believe one is ready for dating when a person have adequate knowledge. He has the right knowledge, and that right knowledge or adequate knowledge is going to teach the person when he is ready to date. So I cannot list some how do I say measuring indices, specific ones. I cannot say because we all grow at different paces, and what one may also think will make him ready may differ in another person. So I think the person should first get his knowledge right. He can attend seminars, he can read good books, and once he has that appreciable level of knowledge, that knowledge will inform the person to know when he's ready to date. And this will pave way for the person to grow spiritually, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and I think with that the person will know when he's ready to date.
Oh.
There are so many of them I can list, and some of them I think will depend on the individual, but I'll try to list some general ones that are derived from the Bible, and it's a matter of principle that everyone can relate with. So with the do's, I believe the person should first of all pray to God for wisdom, and that wisdom is going to guide the person. The person should also, while dating, finding out, fishing for prospects, the person should build himself, he should grow, he should also try to be as independent as possible. Then again, the person should open his eyes, his ears, his mind, so that he can see reality as it is. Because sometimes we allow our emotions to interfere so much that we become very blind to certain weaknesses we wouldn't have compromised. So that's what I'll say for the truths. And for the don'ts, I think the first one is that these friends should try to stay away from sex and petting, which I believe is reserved for couples. That's what the Bible says. And also, still with the don'ts, there shouldn't be unrealistic expectations, and there should be no competition, abuse, what have you. So these are a few of the don'ts and also the do's that I think I would recommend.
Oh, which when you say competition, like what do you actually mean by competition?
Okay, so with a competition, that's when an individual is dating and he sees a suitable prospect. This person is maybe advancing in whether academics, in his work, occupation, what have you, and this person would have complimented him very much, but he thinks the person is better than him, so he tries to look elsewhere. Else, even if he would consider the person as a candidate, during this friendship, he envies the person, tries to compete with the person. Hence, he does not pour himself out to the person. He's not kind. He or she does not find ways to add value to the other person. And Since dating precedes relationship and marriage, it's going to form a very big foundation for relationships and marriage. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. And Preacher Ike, about you talking about sometimes we are blinded by love. I think it's one factor. But how can we actually ignore our emotions and take critical notice of all these faults?
Okay, so as I said, I think the simple fact is for one to use his or her head, and emotions overrule our mind when we know that this is not right, but because of pity or feelings, we try to overlook, and at the end, the reality hits us, and we regret. So I think during dating, one should try to suppress emotions so that you can see reality as it is.
The sex there, because of late, like the youth, as you already know, when they are dating, it's like if sex is not part, it's not a relationship. I've had like conversations with guys and they'll be like, can you actually, they can't actually date without having sex. So it's like our world now, that is what is happening. And most Christians are even influenced to actually join that. So what is the motivation that I shouldn't have sex with my boyfriend? If apart from the Bible, what's the motivation? Because if they will tell you that you're Christo, in the Bible, why shouldn't I have sex with my boyfriend?
Okay, so I think with the motivation, even though you asked apart from the Bible, I think the Bible should take preeminence. It's because when God is, as Christians, we have to try to avoid it as much as possible in appreciation for His grace for us. And moreover, when a lady gives herself to a guy and the guy gets what he wants, okay, usually men chase after ladies, and one of the major reasons is because of sex. That's why sex is one of the fundamental reasons why people marry, and we cannot overrule that. So when a lady allows a guy who is not married to her to have sex with her, and there is a less motivation for the guy to prepare to marry the lady, he will look elsewhere. So I think this is what we have to take note of. And one other practical scenario is what we see in the Bible. When Ammon lasted after, I wouldn't say love because he lasted after her sister. And her sister was Tamar. These were David's children. When Ammon had way to rape her sister, the Bible records that his hatred for the sister now outweighed the love he had. So Satan deceives us, especially the ladies, thinking that when they offer themselves to the guys, they'll love them more. By the end, it becomes the opposite. So this is also one of the reasons why ladies are or both sexes are supposed to avoid sex as much as possible. And with the guys too, when you have sex with a lady and you impregnate her, you cut short her dreams. So someone you love so much, you have to support her and also try to control yourself just because of the love. And for those who have been using some contraceptives and that, I think they later have some implications that are very harmful and will have some ramifications in their marriage when any of them marry in the later years, especially for the women. So that's why I will advocate that those dating or in relationship will avoid sex as much as possible.
Before we continue, you mentioned petting. Because even those who are not having sex, it's like touchy, it's normal, lips goes and all that. And in our world, how can we actually date and not involve ourselves? Let's say sex is not part, the lips goes and all that.
It's a very difficult thing to do because it's like bringing petrol and matches together or fire. It's going to ignite. So it's very difficult, but um, when the two people share equal values and they want to honor God in their relationship, they try to set boundaries. And usually, when the two find themselves in a closed environment, that's when the temptation becomes higher. So with this knowledge, they should try to meet in open places or public places as often as possible, and and try all they can. It's very difficult, as I said, I have to admit, but they should try all they can, because sin is against God, and if God detests sin so much, then we have to do all we can. So I'm not saying it's easy, but it's I think one needs to commit himself or herself to it, and I believe God is going to help such people to do that.
Thanks very much. We are really going to try. So, Preacher Ike, the next question. What are the ramifications for anyone who dates unprepared?
Okay, so when one does not prepare, because dating precedes relationship and marriage, it's like building or mounting a building on a weak foundation. The relationship becomes weak, or even if it ends up in marriage, it becomes very weak. So just like when a building built on a weak foundation collapses, no matter how strong the top is, that's what usually happens to most relationships and marriages. Eventually, it often collapses or fails. And even if it's going to survive, it has to pass through fire. So that's what I have to say. And this should give us the more reason why we have to prepare before we date. Else we are going to make the wrong choices, which will eventually harm us in the near future.
You spoke about wrong choices, and I've been thinking about this. Sometimes you'll be like, it's not meant to be, and he's not the perfect one, he's not the chosen one. How can we actually identify that this guy I've met is my soulmate, he's the one? Because we are humans and we don't really see what God has for us, the one who God has prepared. So how can we actually know that this guy, he's the chosen one?
Okay, so God has not created any single individual for anybody. So the issue of soulmate is something you have to take a look at. Now you get to know a suitable partner when you first of all know yourself. So you know yourself, and it will help you know who can complement or be your helper or your helpmate. So getting to know yourself, you will know your strengths and your weaknesses. Then you take your time to know the strength and weakness of the other person. For now, we jump into relationship, but before one transitions into relationship, dating should be done right. And Miles Monroe will say that we have some 4 stages. One we have to pass through. It begins with forming casual friends with a person, hello, hi. Then it progresses to close friend. So it moves from acquaintance to casual friends, then to close friends, then to intimacy. So during these stages, one builds a deeper friendship with a person. So an acquaintance may not know much about the other person, but a casual friend may know a little better than an acquaintance. Then a close friend will know deeper, will now get to know their dreams, values, and some weaknesses. And when intimacy comes in, then more is discovered. Then before one goes into the relationship, you have to decide whether with the strength, you really appreciate the strength the individual has, and also with the weaknesses, whether he can overlook. But you don't enter into marriage planning or thinking that you are going to change the other person. So that's how come we talk about suitable partners. It's not about marrying or entering into a relationship with a perfect person, but one you understand, you appreciate the strength, and you think you can overlook the weakness. So that's what I'll say.
Wow, guys, we actually learned a lot. So, Preacher Ike, is there any advice for someone in a relationship who didn't date right? Is it that the person should quit the relationship, or what should the person actually do?
So, if there's anyone watching who didn't date right and is in a relationship, I think it's not too late. Usually, most relationships or marriages don't go on well when the dating stage was not handled properly. And as one preacher man said, a broken relationship is better than a broken marriage. It is only marriage that God forbids divorce or breaking away, I would say divorce. But in a relationship, there are no restrictions. One can break away at any time. So if one is in a relationship, is going through so many challenges, struggles because the foundation was weak, it is not too late. Our advice that such a person break away, retreats, or learns new things from people who have been through similar things, and counselors and other people who are into relationship, who talk so much about it and are recommended by others. So such a person should acquaint himself with these people and have thorough knowledge before trying again. We shouldn't discourage the person. But I think for now, anyone in a very poor relationship has a chance to break out before it ends into marriage. But once it enters into marriage, God says, I hate divorce. And I think God wouldn't like it if you wait till you get to that stage before you divorce. Thank you.
Okay. So it's hard. It's hard, especially those who have dated for a number of years and they didn't date right and they had to break up. It's not easy because it's like you're going to give someone broken hearts and all that. Preacher Isaac, we have to end the discussion. I know we have all learned a lot, and so we are about to end the discussion. But before we end, Preacher Isaac is going to give us his final words. So take your pen, your paper, and write them down.
So my final words, marriage is good and it's supposed to be enjoyed, but when the foundation is weak, including the dating foundation, then it ends up in a mess. So our advice that we date right in order to marry right. That's what I'll say. Thank you.
Hello guys, as we have learned today, you have to date right in order for you to marry right. Don't forget that. Don't forget that at all. I'm so glad you watched the show from the beginning to the end. If you have not given it a thumbs up, give it a huge one. And guys, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. This is Enima TV, and this is all that we do. We educate, we entertain, and we have discussions with people. See you next time on the show, and for now, it's a bye.